And it's a beautiful Monday morning right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you're watching from. It's Business Morning live from Channels HQ right here in Lagos. Thank you for sharing your morning with us. But let's kick off now with some stories now, starting with oil markets. See, oil prices rose today for a third straight session, buoyed by forecasts of a widening supply deficit in the fourth quarter after Saudi Arabia and Russia extended output cuts, and we see optimism about a recovery in demand in China. Brent crude futures rose by 71 cents to $94.64 a barrel, while US WTI crude futures, that was about at $91.55 a barrel, up 78 cents. Traders will be watching decisions and commentary by central banks, including the US Federal Reserve this week, on interest rate policies, as well as the key economic data out of China. And we see Brent and WTI have climbed for 3 consecutive weeks to touch their highest levels since November, and on track for their biggest quarterly increase since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in the first quarter of 2022. Right here, oil marketers are already saying the rise in the cost of crude oil, coupled with the depreciation of the naira against the United States dollar, might lead to a hike in the pump price of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol. That's when I see oil prices go up, my heart actually shakes. Let's look at the grains market. Now we see Chicago corn futures. That firm today, though an upgrade to European production forecasts and supplies from the U.S. harvest, kept prices near their lowest since late 2020. The most active corn contract on the Chicago Board of Trade, CBOT CV1, was up by 0.1% at $4.76 for half a bushel, while the market is trading close to its lowest level since December 2020. Still got eyes on that grain market. And back here in Nigeria, with the nomination of Dr. Olayemi Cardoso as the new governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and 4 new deputy governors, reactions have trailed Mr. President's picks. One is from the former deputy governor of the central bank, Mr. Tunde Lemo, believes the reputation of the Central Bank of Nigeria has been mismanaged, and Dr. Cardoso must reverse this once approved as the governor. Take a listen.
I'd like to congratulate Dr. Yemi Cardoso. His reputation precedes him. He's coming in at a very, very crucial time. We are having a clean sweep that is only comparable to the time Obasanjo came in 1999. And that one was not even a complete sweep like this because one deputy governor was retained. But this time around, it's a complete sweep. But that provides opportunity for him also to reinvent central bank. Central bank has been in the news in the last 10 months for wrong reasons. And because of that, the public confidence, I would say, has waned. So what should be prioritized is even to look within and ensure that those with whom he is working are people who are fit and proper. He should look into the cadre and ensure that officers that are in key positions are fit and proper to occupy that position. And then too, he should also ensure that central bank's communication is consistent and that the reputation of central bank is brought back. Reputation is very, very important. Central banks all over the world thrive on reputation.
And before the removal of petrol subsidy, inflation was already on a steady rise in Nigeria. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows inflation rose to 25.80% in August. A significant increase reflects the impact of the removal of petrol subsidies and the devaluation of the official exchange rates on consumer prices. Autogas has been touted as a cheaper alternative. Let's get a sense of how that's going. Joining me right here in the studio is Prince Bambo Ademilui, Chairman, Autogas Committee, NLPGA, and the past Chairman, LPG Group, LCCI. Good morning. Great to have you on the show.
Good morning.
So looking at the inflation numbers for August, it is expected, after, the petrol subsidy removal, it was expected that prices were going to go up for petrol. And we're seeing oil prices already rising in the global market. LPG, supposed to be that alternative, how's the conversion rate, right now?
Today, LPG is about 358 naira per liter. while PMS is about 580 to 600.
Right.
And when you use it in Autogas, you will almost get the same mileage from use of a liter of LPG with PMS. So you're saying you can save about 40% of your costs by running LPG in your vehicle, or indeed other equipment. A lot of people are using it now even in converting their small generators. You know, I passed my neighbor.
Right. And definitely, we've seen, I've seen on social media, people already converting. But looking at checking out data right now, has the conversion, the same demand that we saw for conversion, when, petrol prices rose, is that same demand still, is that what we're still seeing right now in the market, or has it waned?
The demand is increasing. In actual fact, I met a gentleman about a week and a half ago who said he was importing 5,000 conversion kits for generators, petrol generators. I said, you will sell them? He said, in fact, they will go in a short time. Yeah. So the demand is increasing, even for cars, because LPG is available. That's the beauty of it. It's already available.
Right.
Remember, Nigeria went into the add-on filling stations scheme, where people were told to put LPG in their filling stations for sale to for cooking. But now it's becoming useful for Autogas, because people are converting their cars to use LPG, and they are buying from these same sources where people go to fill their cylinders for cooking. I have a car that's been burning LPG for 11, 12 years. Although, you will call me a missionary, because I started when nobody was interested, because I knew LPG was available, and we had the conversion kit, and we converted the car, a Kia Sportage. It's been everywhere. But when I'm going to Ife, it's cheaper for me, so I fill up gas and I travel with it, because I'm traveling long distance. And when I get to Ife, I switch to petrol again and use within town. When I'm coming back, it's gas.
And looking at your own personal experience, the car has been functioning.
In fact, functioning better.
Any changes to how you service the car?
Of course. With your PMS, you will service the car maybe at about 5,000 kilometers use. But with LPG, we could do 7,000.
So you don't have to service that.
You don't have to service too often, because you see, it's gas. So the combustion is complete, almost complete all the time. If you look at the exhaust, it's clean. If you look at the engine itself, if you open an LPG, a gas-fired engine, it's clean. There's no carbon deposits. So that's the advantage of using LPG.
All right,
really.
Let's look at costs now. I know I saw a headline this morning that marketers were warning that a 12.5 kilogram of gas could hit 18,000 naira, by the end of this year. And definitely I was afraid. I'm like, okay. So what happens to the cheaper alternative?
When I was coming, somebody called me to talk about that. That is it true? And I said, there's nothing that can be further from the truth. It's not likely. It's good. That means you're doubling the price in the space of 3 months. What could cause that? It to be a world crisis. Because LPG is not only available locally, we're still importing a lot of it. So even if there's a total blankout in the local production, we can still import. And indeed, the imported product these days matches very closely with the Nigerian product. Yes, sometimes cheaper. So I don't see
So you're saying the warning from the marketers?
I don't know which marketer is this. They are probably being mischievous.
Right. Well, we'll keep tracking that too.
Yeah,
and hopefully that doesn't happen.
No, I don't think it will happen.
Well, let's look at costs of conversion now. It says that converting a petrol car to Autogas costs about 300,000 to about 400,000 naira.
About 300.
That's a lot of money, really, because the average consumer is already squeezed on all sides. What's the plan to make this affordable, the conversion?
Really, for conversion, to make it popular, that is where government really needs to come in. Because they are talking about subsidy of petrol. But when you now subsidize the equipment itself, it's more lasting and it's going directly to the individual, especially the transporters. You convert for a transporter, maybe make him pay half and then pay the rest over a period of time or something like that. That makes it convenient for him because for every full tank, he's saving some money. And in a space of a year, that cost of conversion is gained back and it's yours forever. I've not had to do any maintenance on my conversion kit since I bought it 11, 12 years ago. So there's no maintenance and you are saving cost of fuel every day. So that makes it very, very easy. But that cost of conversion is where government can come in to ensure that people get it more affordably.
And I'm wondering, can the government actually afford to subsidize that? Because
of course, I think government has been talking about subsidizing conversion for a while, even from the last government, because there were two groups that were working extensively with us in NLPGA on this. There was a group in the vice president's office that did extensive work. They really went around the country. We joined them in a lot of the trips to find out what needs to be done. And they had recommended that kits should be bought to support especially the local transporters to make them convert to the use of LPG. There's also the Nigerian gas expansion program, which did a lot of work. And most of these guys are technocrats in government. Maybe that's why we didn't hear much about them. If they were like us in NLPGA, we will tell you, we are doing this, we are doing that, and all that. So there's a lot of work that is going on, and government can actually intervene. That is LPG is a quick intervention tool for Autogas because LPG is already available all over the country. There's nowhere you go in this country you won't find a gas plant. And any gas plant can supply Autogas. All they need is just that conversion kit to key into their hose and then fit into the cylinder of the car.
And talking about, subsidies, definitely in Nigeria, subsidies actually, give some kind of foul taste, right now.
Yeah.
Is there any risk of, this particular subsidy? Is there a risk of it being mismanaged?
If it's applied directly to the user, end user, you talk to the owners of the fleets, the transporters, you walk through their unions. The unions are very strict. They are very, very strict. If they give it to you and you go and sell it, they don't take lightly to it. So you use the unions, and NLC is talking about it. They could use it with civil servants. They could give it to civil servants and ensure that they fit it so that they can, and that's some subsidy for them because one, government has subsidized the acquisition, and then they are now spending less with their vehicles to go to work and back and have their social activities. So it could be applied directly to the users. And that way, the middleman cannot enjoy circumventing the success,
So there's minimal risk of mismanaging
there's minimum risk. Because these are people who make a lot of noise usually. Civil servants don't try to cheat them.
Right.
Or even the transporters. So it's only people like us in the private sector who might not have a direct, you may not in channels.
Right. All right, let's look at the risk now of using, Autogas. Aside from reducing your trunk size, because, having to put the canister, in there.
Yes, that reduces
any other risk?
There's none whatsoever. I tell you what, that cylinder in your boot is safer than your petrol cylinder.
Really?
Safer. In the case of an accident, the petrol tank explodes in accidents. The LPG cylinder will not, because it has an automatic shut-off valve. Shuts the cylinder.
What about when the car is, closed and in the sun, the heat? It's
all designed. In fact, these days, there are even fiberglass cylinders. they're stronger than steel. And you see, there's provision for expansion. So no matter how hot the boot is never going to explode. I've been using LPG 12 years. I've not heard of that accident happening anywhere in the world. And in 1991, we went to Brazil and Argentina to study gas as an alternative fuel for vehicles. And since then, I've been on the International Association of Natural Gas Vehicles. I've not heard one report from mails sent to us on any explosion.
Right.
I don't know of one.
Going into 2024, what are you seeing for adoption of Autogas?
What I see, or what I would want to see, is a situation where government actually promotes the use of LPG for Autogas and for domestic use. By that, you could actually extend it to power generation. You know how? Your LPG plant is maybe like a 20-tonner in a small town. And I use a place I went to in Ghana, Sekondi. Sekondi is like Badagry. I took a car hire from Takoradi to Sekondi. And the guy that took me filled up his LPG. In Ghana, virtually all the taxis run LPG. Virtually all. I don't know, I don't think I've gone in a taxi in Ghana, in Accra or Takoradi, because those are the areas I operate in, that doesn't use LPG. So the guy bought his gas there, and people were filling for cooking. Guess what? He had a pipe from the tank, the station had to a generator. And I said, why do they have this big generator? They said, they are supplying power to the community.
So Ghana is already fully adopted.
Yes. I'm talking of it. This place is like, Badagry is even, Sekondi is a small place, a community where there's no industry, there's nothing. And they're already enjoying gas for cooking, for Autogas, and for power generation, just from one small plant.
All right.
And now that the president has generously said that we can generate our own power, there's absolutely no reason where the small villages, somebody cannot just go and throw on there and then burn gas and provide gas for all these uses.
And over the weekend, the NNPC signed an MOU on gas production. So I guess good days ahead, and hopefully, adoption continues. And I hope to be able to convert my cars too.
They are working alongside SON, NMDPRA. They are all working to make sure that these things are met.
All hands on deck.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prince Bambo Ademluyi, Chairman, Autogas Committee, NLPG. It was great having your perspective today.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we head on and check on what's happening with food inflation. That's for August. That's our next conversation. Do stay with us. Welcome back, and still looking at the inflation data for August. We see food inflation rate jumped to 29.34% in August 2023, representing a 2.35% pointer increase from 26.90% recorded in the previous month, and 6.22 points higher than the 23.12% recorded in the corresponding period of 2022. Well, joining me now is Alexander Wakolo Akweze, CEO, Barons and Queens Trading Enterprise Limited, joining me right here in the studio. Good morning. Great to have you.
Good morning.
So food inflation now, big number there, almost 30%, at this point for August. It's big. Consumers are squeezed at this point. How much of currency devaluation is playing into this food inflation number that we're getting in August?
You see, we understand the need for devaluation at this time, but in relation to the agricultural sector and the agro space, has it been done correctly? As the prices of goods keep going up in the market, it has a negative effect in the economy. Yeah, and the reasons for this are, decline in foreign exchange supply.
Right.
We earn foreign exchange, majorly from exports. And, we've been import dependent, especially import dependent on raw materials, agro raw materials that we can produce locally in the country. And this has also given rise to inflation of agro commodities in the market. Then secondly, we have a decline in the purchasing power too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking at this whole issue of currency devaluation, how are traders like yourself, how are you managing all of that?
It's not been easy, For example, in host communities where we operate, we try to fill in the gap and also ease the burden of smallholder farmers, particularly in rural areas where we have our business interests. We try to help smallholder farmers by funding them in terms of giving them farm inputs, and also facilitates economic activities through agriculture in communities. Yes.
Right. So definitely that means you guys are having to spend more because, as a trader, you're definitely you're in it for profit.
Yes.
So how is that working, helping smallholder farmers, with inputs?
Where there is business activities, where there is trading, where there is buying and selling, no matter the economic variable or economic downturn, there's always activities. And when there is activities, it gives rise for the forces of demand and supply. And, where there is demand and supply, no matter how, you tend to break even or you make profit. Yes.
And definitely where we are right now, looking at the food inflation data for August, definitely expectations are it will still be high, for the month of September. So what's the way out of this, because we have to eat.
Yes.
But if the consumer can't afford it, what next?
Way out, you see, we need a solution, a Nigerian solution, let me put it that way. Solution for Nigerians by Nigerians, especially businesses in the agro ecospace, agro-indigenous entrepreneurs. Now, one of the way out is, I feel, if we could have a relaxed monetary policy for indigenous agro businesses. Now, relaxed monetary policies, what I mean by that is most agro-indigenous businesses don't have the means to access funding, and funding becomes an issue. And because agriculture is also a volatile business, most financial institutions and even insurance companies tend to shy away from agriculture. But when we have a relaxed monetary policy for indigenous agro businesses, it protects the indigenous business, agro businesses. Then it also encourages people to go into agriculture, and thereby it will create employment and it will also create food security. Yeah.
And we have another CBN governor coming in soon. We know the previous CBN governor, we had the Anchor Boroughs program. What would you like to see from the CBN when it comes to supporting agriculture?
Well, I would say not just by paying lip service, but by engaging serious-minded entrepreneurs in agriculture, indigenous serious-minded entrepreneurs, and finding a way to relax also fiscal policies for agro entrepreneurs too, in terms of, relaxed taxation, and at the same time empowering indigenous agro entrepreneurs, and finding ways to make them competitive in line with international best practices.
Would you still like to see the Anchor Boroughs program?
Yeah, I think the Anchor Boroughs program can be restructured because there are a lot of good things in line with that program, in line with the policy. But in my own opinion, I feel there are some things that could be added to it and some things that could be removed, and efficient monitoring.
Efficient monitoring.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let's look at the investments there now. There are people that want to invest, in the agricultural space, but they don't want to have to go to the farms.
Yeah.
And we have, platforms that come up and say, oh, we're going to help you.
Yeah.
We'll give you a so amount every month or every year.
Yeah.
But some of them turn out to be scams.
True.
So what can investors, an investor looking to put their hands into the agri space, what can they do right now?
Thank you. One of our company's objectives is agro-commodity trading. And under that company objective, and under our business objective, we have investment portfolios in the short term and in the long term. For short-term investments, we have grains and cassava chip portfolios. These portfolios are just for investors who want to invest for a short-term period for maybe 4 months. Then we have the Barron's investment portfolio. This is a medium-term portfolio for investors who want to invest for a period of 6 to 8 months before getting back their ROI. Yeah.
All right. So, seeing food inflation at this number right now, what are you expecting, going forward? Now, how do you see consumers, maneuvering all of this price increase we're seeing with food, especially?
I see in a way the market is volatile now.
Yeah.
The market is unstable, but consumers can also plan their spending. Should also anticipate the market, because what you get for a commodity now, when you get to the market tomorrow, it would also increase, and price keeps increasing because as long as we are still importing raw materials for local production, the prices will continue to go up.
Yeah, definitely. We're hoping for the very best there. But talk to me about technology now. What are we seeing in that space when it comes to use of technology?
Yeah, so far so good. We developed a platform in which we are using technology to drive in investments in agriculture. And that platform is under one of our business objectives, which we call remote farming and investment objective. Now, with the help of our development partners, we've been able to develop a web-based application, mobile application that runs on iOS and Android. On these applications, anybody could invest, anybody could buy up, could invest in a portfolio in the short term and in the long term, and investors could also see in real time prices of commodity, prices of exchange rates in relations with commodities and in relations with the prices of these commodities.
You can see all of that on the app.
Yes,
right.
And the prices of these commodities on the international markets too.
Right.
Yes.
All right, that's good. Be able to gauge the prices and know what to expect going forward.
We hope to launch by December.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right, thank you so much, Alexander Nwankolo Akweze, CEO, Barons and Queens Trading Enterprise. Great having your perspective.
Thank you.
All right, now let's take a look at what's happening in the international space. Now, we know it's the 78th edition of the United Nations General Assembly that's it kicks off today in New York. And we know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu arrived there yesterday in New York. And we have Juliana, our very own Juliana, right there in New York to bring us up to date. Hello, Juliana. Good morning.
Good morning, Ladi. Good morning from Manhattan, where it's just over 5:30 a.m. in the morning here.
Wow, thank you so much for waking up so early, Juliana. So give us expectations, what we can expect, who's there, who's not there at the Onga.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a big one, I've got to say. It is the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. I believe we've got about just a little over 140 world leaders being represented. If it's not the head of state, then certainly it's someone senior within the government. As you quite rightly said, just a few hours ago now, we did have the arrival of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who, alongside many other people, will be speaking tomorrow at the high-level debate, because there are a week-long festivities, activities, programs in New York this week. But I've got to say the big one is going to be tomorrow. And there are already headlines, and the headlines are, who hasn't showed up? This is certainly going to be a Biden show, because 4 out of the 5 P5 security members are not showing up. That's the UN security members. There are 5 countries, US namely. We also have China, Russia, UK, France, and we're not going to be seeing them. And that is quite shocking. Typically, Xi Jinping, the leader of China, doesn't generally come to a United Nations General Assembly, but there are, shall we say, eyebrows being raised that he hasn't sent anybody senior in his cabinet, very similar to Russia, though we're not surprised because of the tension and for the fact that Lavrov, the foreign secretary, could be arrested at JFK. Russia hasn't sent anybody. And then, of course, the United Kingdom and France. To talk about Rishi Sunak not coming, this would have been his first opportunity to speak to world leaders in New York since he was appointed Prime Minister in October. Now, there are lots of things happening domestically. Our viewers will know that because I typically discuss them with you and Innie every morning, Laddie. But surprised he's not here. Macron as well. We know what's been taking place on the continent of Africa, and the fact that many of his own ambassadors have been dismissed from areas of pretty high tension in Francophone Africa. He won't be here. I think for Emmanuel Macron, there are a couple of credible excuses. Britain's King Charles III will be visiting Paris this week. Of course, he was supposed to come a couple of months ago, but that trip was delayed because of protests. And then I do believe that he'll also be seeing Pope Francis at some point later this week. So for Emmanuel Macron and for the Kremlin, perhaps credible excuses, but I think Antonio Guterres, the UN General Secretary, is going to be really upset that we won't be seeing Rishi Sunak or Xi Jinping.
Right. So much to look out for. Thank you so much, Juliana. We know we're going to be getting updates from you as they come right there. Thank you, Juliana.
Thanks, Laddie.
Right, so that's Juliana right there. The United Nations General Assembly meeting that kicks off today should be bringing us updates as they come right there. All right, let's head on to the markets and let's take a look at what's happening. We have Anete Ede with the details. Anete, good morning.
Yeah.
Fresh,
good morning, Laddie.
Brand new week here, and I'm sure you're expecting new stuff for the markets this week.
Yeah, September is gradually, we're past the middle of September.
It's incredible. I thought we just started September.
Yeah, we just started September. We just started the Ember month, and already it's already moving into the third week and almost counting into the fourth week.
Incredible.
Exactly. So now, but we're looking at about 3 markets, and then we'll be having our analysts to talk more about the new central bank governor, and next week we'll be having the monetary policy committee meeting of the central bank. So now let me give you the details of last week's transactions at the FX market. Take a look at your board. On your board, we had that the FX spot market. It was a negative turn for the market, and that impact was largely felt by the FX spot market, which went down by 37.51%, and that's the reason why we saw a 36.57% decrease on the overall total turnover of the market, in contrast to what you had in the previous week. This is as of September the 15th, just last week, Friday. And then we also saw an increase on the forwards market, which was largely driven by the FX derivatives market, which was up by more than 468%. It was largely driven by the forwards side of the market. Now let's move over to the Naira side of the market, the Nigeria Autonomous Fixed Exchange, where the Naira is trading, but it was up by 0.46%. And then we had, in contrast to what you had the previous week, which was about 772 Naira 13 kobo, which is what they traded the previous week, but it was up at about 768 Naira 62 kobo for that market. For the fixed income market, we saw bearish trading. Last week we saw bonds offer. We saw the FGM bonds offering by the debt management office, and at the same time we also had a primary market auction, which was the second within this month. And then, of course, the big news just last week, where we had the central bank governor nominee announced by the president. So to give us more details about this and other things to expect, particularly when you look at the fixed income market, which has been bearish, let's talk to Senator Audu, fixed income dealer and FX trader at Access Bank. Thank you for joining us, Senator.
Thanks for having me, Aniti.
Yeah, Senator, it was quite a lot of activity last week, even though we saw bearish trading for the fixed income as well, for the fixed income market in particularly, and at the same time, the FX market. Can you give us more details about this, particularly looking at the new central bank governor nominee?
Okay, so last week, towards the tail end, we got information that a new CBN governor had been nominated. This nomination was met with largely with optimism by members, market participants. The news came out after the markets had closed, so we had to wait until today to see if there will be any reaction. And the markets have opened on a quiet note, the fixed income market as well as the FX market. We haven't seen any significant shift following those announcements. As you rightly said, last week the key happenings on the fixed income market were the auctions. On Monday, we had the bond auction, and on Wednesday, we had the NTB auction. At the bond auction, the same four bonds were offered, the 2029s, the 33s, the 38s, as well as the 53s. We saw rates across all four bonds rise. To give you some color, the 2053s closed at 16.25%, and at the auction before that, they had closed at 15.85%. Immediately following that auction, we saw some interest, surprise interest, given that the markets are not particularly liquid at the moment. We saw interest on those bonds, and on the 53s, we saw a trade to as low as 16.19% on Friday. On the NTB side, there was an auction on Wednesday. The DMO offered 152 billion. The subscription was significant at 644 billion, but we saw rates rise across the three treasury bills on offer. To give you some color as well, the 364-day closed at 12.98%, up from 12.55%. Immediately following the auction, we saw the bills trade at significantly lower rates. The 364-day trading to as low as 11.5% on Friday.
Okay, Senator, one key thing I need to ask you, which is just one question before we go to another side of the market. We saw Nigeria's inflation rate climbing for the 8th consecutive month, and from the 24.08%, which we had, to about 25.08%. And of course, we're projecting that the inflation rate is going to still go higher. Some are saying 28%, and some are saying even as high as 30% next year. So now the MPC will be having a meeting next week, and it's also expected to be on a hawkish stand. So what are your expectations, and what do you expect that the new central bank governor, if he's confirmed by the Senate, what will be his actions?
Okay. So the inflation figures were released last week as well. We saw the figure for August coming at 25.8%, up from 24.08%. And this was largely led by food inflation. We saw food inflation at 29.34%. This gives a lot of consideration to the MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee, which is meeting next week on Monday and Tuesday. And we expect that they would review the MPR, the monetary policy rate, upwards, but we don't think that the upward review will be significant, maybe another 25 basis points. The MPR is currently at 18.75%, so we may see it hit the 19% mark on Monday. We don't expect that they will move the other parameters such as the CRR, the MPR, and the asymmetric, the CRR, the liquidity ratio, and the asymmetric corridor. We expect that those could be left stable, but our key projection is that there will be an upward review in the MPR.
Okay, sorry, Senator, I'll still ask you another question. This week, this is a new week, so what are we expecting for the market? How do you expect the market to perform for the close of today and for the rest of the week, starting off with on Monday?
We expect some more a slightly stable market leaning towards bullish, and the basis of that expectation is that we will see significant coupon payments this week, about 172 billion. So we expect that beneficiaries of these coupon payments would want to reinvest their payments in the markets. So we may see those flows coming on the bond market, and we may see a further downward trend in that space, as well as the NTB market. We may see some market participants not choosing to go the long route, particularly considering the new appointments. Like you said, market participants may want to get a feel of the new CBN governor's mindset and his thinking with regards to liquidity management and, of course, secondary market trading. So market participants may want to stay on the short end of the curve on the bond side, because we saw some activity on the 2026 bonds last week, which is classified as short end, as well as interest on one-year treasury bills. So we may see market participants spend a bit more time on the short end rather than on long end instruments.
Very, very interesting to watch. And then, well, of course, we will keep our eyes out on all of these happenings for the market, for the fixed income market, and then as well as other markets. So thank you for that analysis, Senator. And of course, like I'd always say, our eyes are always on the market. Now, Senator Audu, FX dealer at Access Bank, giving us details about the fixed income market. Let's move over to the other side of the market, the Nigeria's stock market, the barometer of the economy. It was back in the red, but this time, when you take a look at the performance, it was due to profit taking, not any other impact, just the impact of sell pressure on some of the key bellwethers. We saw 53 stocks be in the red, while 32 stocks were in the green. And of course, year to date, we've reduced all the way from 32%, which we were, to about 31.05%. But for the index, it has also dropped all the way from the 68,000 points, where it was, to about 67,395.74. Market cap at about 36.88, still on the high side, and then month to date was still we're in the green for month to date, 1.27%. Let's move over to the other side of the market. Sectoral performance, we saw sectoral performance be in the green. In the red, only the insurance counter was in the green, 0.46%, but you saw the impact of sell pressure across the banking counter, which was the most impacted, 3.24% down, and also seconded by the consumer goods sector, 1.84%, almost 2% down. And then, of course, you saw the oil and gas sector that took quite a bashing there, more than 2% in the decline. So that's it for the market. Activity chart, which we saw previously, we saw an increase on the level of activities. Now, what are we to expect for the market? We expect that for the bonds market, we see much of profit taking on that market, but will the market react to what the central bank's governor would be when they meet from next week? But for the rest of the week, we expect that it's going to be a very tepid activity at the markets.
Tepid. All right, that's what we're expecting. Thank you so much, Anete. Always great to have your perspective there for the market.
Yep.
Well, we'll head on to other markets now, but do remember you can catch all the updates from the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly meeting there. It kicks off today in New York, and we have 4 of our reporters there standing by, so you can be sure you're going to get all the information. We have Juliana Olayinka there, we have Larry Lasisi, Anna Wilder, and Maria Bird right there covering all proceedings in New York. So keep it right here on Channels Television to get all the updates from the meeting. All right, now let's head on to the markets now. Take a look at what's happening. Crypto there, we see Bitcoin there holding on 46 points. It's fear we're seeing in the market right now there. 46 points, showing that traders are still quite afraid in this market. If we look at the sentiment there, fear is what we see right now. If you look at the top cryptocurrencies that we track in the market, the top cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin there, trading at about $26,000 there, $26,684, up 0.52%. Ethereum, $1,632, also up 0.08%. BNB XRP, all in green, but XRP is losing that 50-cent level at this point. Let's flip over now to the top gainers counter. We see Link there topping the counter up 6.64% at $6.64. Quite interesting. ApeCoin $1.13, and we see GMX also on the top gainers counter. Well, let's bring in Element Damble now to bring us up to speed what's happening in the market. Hello, Element.
Oh, hey, Lottie, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Great to have you. So we got that report there. We see Vanex monthly crypto market recap. It shows that trading volumes of centralized exchanges, that declined to about $52.8 billion in August. That's a 15.5% decrease compared to July. What do you think drove this? And what is it telling us?
Yeah, I think traditionally what we always see in the summer months across all markets, whether it's crypto, whether it's commodities or Forex, we always see a decline in trading volumes. And this is usually because traders, investors pretty much are on holiday, especially in the US and in Europe and things of that nature. So historically, there is that element to it. But also, of course, in particular with crypto, we are seeing traders somewhat lose interest. Of course, volumes hitting a 4.5-year low. So yeah, in addition to just a seasonal decline in volume, I think there is that sense of markets consolidating to the point where traders are now looking for volatility elsewhere.
And definitely, it's a fresh new week right here. What are you expecting for price action? What are the charts showing you? Any oversold region or overbought regions?
Yeah, we've just seen Bitcoin, just looking at the chart now, it's just crossed over a key threshold, which has essentially been leading to the consolidation. So it's just crossed over a resistance level of 50 on the 14-day RSI. And if you look at the charts, of course, Bitcoin, BTC, USD now trading at its highest level since the end of August. And I think this is probably coming on some optimism of what the Fed could do this coming Wednesday. Of course, the Fed coming back for the first time in a few weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what they do on Wednesday, but markets are somewhat reacting to this positively to start with.
What do you think, how do you think the market is going to react if the Fed actually raise rates at the next meeting? Or what are you seeing for forward guidance when it comes to rate hikes?
Yeah, I think what we have seen, especially last month, inflation continues to be one of the key drivers of the monetary policy there in the US. So as long as inflation, of course, continues to be above that 2% target for the Fed, we are and will likely continue to see rates higher and higher in terms of forward guidance. And I think what investors are just looking at, again, is just to see if the Fed just remains to the course, but also looking at other pieces of economic data. We saw retail sales last week, of course, coming in higher than expected, which was also a boost in investor confidence. And you are seeing traders, even though it's a delayed response, they are starting to respond to some of that news as well.
Right, and definitely this we still have that correlation between the crypto market and U.S. stocks. Do we see that coming back at this time? Because it looked like for a while there was a decoupling between the crypto market and U.S. stocks. Do you see that synergy coming back again?
Yeah, and I think what ties the two in together is the dollar, it's the US dollar. So I think what we need to pay attention to is the US dollar. Of course, if we do see a strong dollar, that could have an adverse effect on crypto. And of course, the weakening dollar, we do see the correlating effect. So I think it's a case of looking at the dollar and looking how the dollar is moving in the next few days. Of course, in the last few weeks, we have seen a decline, an increase in dollar strength, GBP USD climbing to a multi-month high. I think it was its highest level pretty much since the start of the summer. So we are seeing the dollar begin to gain strength. And I think that has, and we can see from the charts, this sort of BTC USD, if you're looking at ETH, it has had somewhat of an impact. But just to go back technically, because I've just paid attention to a key technical occurrence which could be happening as well. Of course, moving averages, which is another key sign of bullish pressure. The 10-day and 25-day moving average are just on the cusp of crossing over as well, which could be another positive sign for longer-term bulls.
So for what you're seeing, we're talking about the DXY. Are we seeing bullish movement this week?
Yeah, I think, again, what we could see tomorrow prior to the FOMC meeting is more clarity in terms of that. I think to start the week, you are seeing some consolidation. Once the US markets open later on, I think in a few hours, we will probably see the sign of sentiment. But flowing from last week, it was a lot more uncertain. We were seeing a lot more consolidation, but we will have more clarity in the next few hours.
Right, definitely looking out for clarity there. Thank you so much, Element Dambo, a financial market analyst. Always great to have your perspective.
Cheers, thank you so much.
All right, now, so look at the losers counter now. Let's see what's topping the counter. That's IOTA there, 15 cents, down about 3.51%. And we'll see the China coin, CFX, also down about 2.68% at 11 cents. So the market is still looking for direction right about now. It's still fear in the market. Traders are still, on the side at this point when it comes to the crypto market. And looking at liquidity we saw for August, wondering what September is going to hold for the crypto market. Well, that's the show today. Don't forget, right here on Channels TV, you can get all the updates from the 78th session there for the United Nations General Assembly meeting. Remember, you can get all the updates there. We have 4 of our reporters right there standing by to bring us information. We have Juliana Olayenka, as I said earlier, Larry Lasisi, and Wilder Maria Bird. So definitely you'll be getting all the updates right there from the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. That's August 78 kicks off today. All right, that's the show today. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to join us at 1:30 for Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. And you can just head on to www.channelstelevision.com for more updates. And you can see all our production, even on our YouTube channel. Just flip over to YouTube, search for Channels Television, and you can watch all our productions. Thanks for watching again. I'm Ladi Williams. Have a profitable day.